A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
Pero se puede jugar. Buenas a todos al stream. Vale, sí, se puede jugar con mano.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately. I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
Vamos a ver qué tal está. Tiene muy buenas reviews.
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
¿Arriba o por abajo? Vale, esta aumenta la visión.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints. The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
Vaya, vaya.
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Vale, empezamos con que es una casa muy extraña, me recuerda a la de los Weasley.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house. I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't. Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
Vale.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
A ver, estamos allanando nuestra propia casa, yo no digo nada.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home. But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
¿Qué de platos? Joder, qué de mierda.
Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot. The table was still a wreck from the night we left.
Tiene que leer eso fuerte, ¿eh?
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great-Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
¿Que la bisabuela qué?
It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture. Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive. Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library. A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night.
No entiendo qué
After
está
Milton
pasando.
disappeared,
Me da miedo.
Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
¿Quién coño es Eddie?
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin. As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
Dios, qué puto mal rollo, ¿eh?
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
Qué puto mal rollo de casa, nene.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left. I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up. Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him. Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of. Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. But I had no idea what was behind that door. Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
Vale.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
Vale, prosigamos. Vale, ahora somos Molly, ¿no?
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
Joder, la niña, madre mía, qué hambre tenía, hija de puta.
Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
I kept eating and eating.
¿En serio?
lot of things that night.
Ay, perdón. A ver, eso no va a ser muy saludable. Como si hubiera habido un mojón y se lo hubiera
Then I
podido
heard
comer.
chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her,
¿Qué hostia se va a dar?
and suddenly, I was a cat.
What? ¿Cómo? Espera. Espera un momentito. ¿Cómo que soy un gato? Vale, pero desde aquí... Coño. He saltado antes y no sé cómo.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
¿Dónde está?
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me. I jumped and I almost got her.
Están cabronando, ¿eh?
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
Qué puta paranoia.
Rabbits. Through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
Pero a ver, esta niña no está bien, ¿eh? Necesitamos un psicólogo por aquí.
A mama rabbit. She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark. I rolled off the cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever. I wanted fat, juicy seals. Tasted really good.
Madre mía, tú, pero en serio, ¿qué coño la pasa? Está enferma, ¿eh? ¿Dónde está? Lo he perdido. He perdido los putos ejes, tío. ¡Ah! Tiene invertidos los putos ejes. ¿Dónde está? Es que se me pierde, tío. Oh, tiene unos controles terribles, tío. O sea, la historia es rara, mola, pero los controles del juego son una puta mierda.
I grabbed on tight, but I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere. I was big, but I moved real quiet.
Vale, esta niña necesita un psicólogo, ¿eh? Claramente.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
Creo que era un logro no comérmelo hasta que no acabe con la canción, creo. Bueno, mira, ¿sabes?
Passenger, I was still hungry, and to cross the water I smelled something new. something I had to have, so I swam towards it.
Yo no sé qué le pasa, pero no está bien,
I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
De todas maneras, lo que no entiendo es qué me está contando, o sea... Se va a comer a sí mismo. Eso es lo que me estás contando. Esta es tu habitación.
I got closer and closer.
Claro, o sea, esta es tu habitación. La cosa es, ¿dónde coño está? Cara, no, si es que si me choco no trepo. Abre la puerta. No, la puerta está cerrada, ¿no?
All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
What? En 1947 la palmó.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have. This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room. When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't. One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity. I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long time. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious. Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him. Edie knit me a new pair of gloves every year, just in time to replace the old ones. Her room was like a museum. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house. Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways. even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother. The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife, Kay, left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace. There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book. Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down. From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
Vaya diferencia de hermanos, ¿no?
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom, and he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again, and he wasn't.
Vale,
I think
cada
Calvin
uno de los
always
joysticks es una pierna.
wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready! Coming!
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. That's the day he made up his mind to fly, and he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing. After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again. The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies. Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara. Edie's father, Odin, built the original house. Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star. I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Vale, aquí.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. In a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent. She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and
Toma.
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the Late Late Picture Show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Oh, sí, ves esto.
Walter, are you there?
Walter vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the Hookman, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
Played her part beautifully.
Bueno, está la habitación de Molly, ¿no?
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges grow. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet. Vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... At the door, she heard whispering. was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life.
¿Qué cojones?
I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story.
Que es como los libros de pesadilla.
Tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Vale, esta familia es mazo de
Edie told
rara.
me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending. I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
Vale, pero tiene que haber alguna manera de subir. De la habitación de Bárbara ya no se podía salir. La habitación de Eddie ya hemos estado.
It's funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key.
Claro, no, pero ahora obviamente pues tengo que ir ahí, ¿no? Si es lo que nos ha contado. Pues lo vamos a dejar por aquí. Ha estado bastante bien. La verdad es que es un juego muy curioso. Hemos descubierto la historia de 1, 2, 3, 4 y nos quedan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 y 8. Así que nada, un placer haber estado con vosotros esta mañana y nos vemos en otro rato. Chao, chao.